Today, we're going to talk about what green really means on the shop floor. And let's be clear, this isn't about seeing it as some extra cost or another regulation you have to deal with. We're going to break down how it's actually a massive competitive advantage, a way to make your operations smarter, cleaner, and yeah, way more profitable. Let's get into it. You know, this quote just nails it. This isn't about making a tiny little tweak here or a small adjustment there. We're talking about a fundamental leap forward. It's about engineering a business that isn't just winning today, but is built to be absolutely state-of-the-art for years to come. For a long time, let's be honest, going green probably felt like just another obligation, right? Another box you had to check. But the industry is changing fast, and now this whole idea represents a huge opportunity to ditch outdated processes and get a real, tangible edge on the competition. The word you gotta focus on here is renewal. This isn't just about managing your waste a little better. It's about taking a hard look at your entire production process. It's a chance to question why things have always been done a certain way and to find smarter ways to save time, slash costs, and build a rock-solid reputation as a leader who's thinking ahead. Okay, so where do you even start on this journey? Well, like any good engineering problem, you start with the data. You can't improve what you don't measure. So let's look at how you can get a clear, honest scorecard for your own shop's performance. Think about it like this. You would never upgrade a CNC machine without running a full diagnostic first, right? The exact same logic applies here. The absolute first step you have to take is a complete, no-holds-barred evaluation of your facility's current environmental footprint. And the industry standard tool for this kind of diagnostic is what's called a life cycle assessment, or LCA. It's basically a methodical way of looking at your entire system, from the raw materials and the energy coming in to the finished parts and the waste going out. It gives you the whole picture, soup to nuts. Now, life cycle assessment might sound kind of intimidating, but really, it just boils down to these 4 simple questions. First, what are you actually trying to achieve here? Better efficiency, lower costs? Second, what are your real inputs and outputs? Let's get a list. Third, okay, what's the real-world impact of all that stuff? And finally, this is the most important one. Based on what you've learned, what can you actually change to get better? And you know, once you start that investigation, it almost always leads you to one specific area, a major performance bottleneck that exists in pretty much every shop. It's time we had a serious talk about cutting fluids. Just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, get a load of this number. Over 2 billion gallons. That's how much was used way back in 2002, and you know that number has only gone up since then. That is a staggering amount of fluid to buy, to manage, and then to pay someone to get rid of. We all know cutting fluids are absolutely critical. They cool, they lubricate, they get chips out of the way, but we also know their performance tanks over time. So the question is, what is actually getting into your coolant and messing everything up? Well, it really comes down to 4 usual suspects. First, you've got your Tramp oils, lubricants from the machine itself that leak into the system. Then you've got the obvious stuff, the coarse particulates like chips and swarf, and of course all those finer metal particles. But honestly, the most destructive troublemakers, they're the microorganisms. Oh man, if you've ever walked into a shop and been hit with that Monday morning stink, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That smell, that's hydrogen sulfide. It's a waste product from anaerobic bacteria that have been having a party in the machine sumps all weekend. They are a huge reason why coolant goes bad and has to be dumped. So let's talk solutions. You can pretty much lump cutting fluids into 2 big camps. You've got the old school, petroleum-based stuff. It's often toxic, a pain to dispose of. And then you have the new school, plant-based fluids. They're renewable, way less toxic, and made from things like coconut or neem oil. But the million-dollar question is, do they actually perform? The data says a big, fat yes. In fact, a lot of the time, they can actually outperform the old petroleum stuff. One study found a coconut oil blend did way better on stainless steel because it has a higher thermal stability. Another study found a blend of plant oils was superior to standard motor oil in drilling because it was stickier, which actually reduced the cutting force needed. So this isn't a compromise, it's a straight-up performance upgrade. So yeah, better fluids are out there, for sure. But the real next-gen move, the real leap forward, comes from rethinking your entire strategy around fluids. Let's look at some truly cutting-edge approaches to machining. All right, now hang with me for a second because this might sound a little bit radical, but it's absolutely true. The most efficient, the most cost-effective, and the most environmentally friendly approach is to get rid of the fluid completely whenever you can. We're talking about dry machining. The benefits here are just huge. I mean, first off, you completely vaporize all your fluid-related costs. Buying it, managing it, disposing of it, gone. You also prevent thermal shock, that killer of tool life. And with modern coated carbide tools that have their own heat resistance and lubrication, dry machining is perfect for things like milling, interrupted cuts, and chewing through hardened steels. But look, we get it. You can't always go completely dry. It's just not practical for every job. For those cases, there's the next best thing, minimum quantity lubrication, or MQL. Think of it as a near-dry process. Instead of flooding a part, it delivers a tiny, super precise aerosol of high-quality lubricant right where you need it, at the cutting zone, and nowhere else. And the difference is just staggering. I mean, look at this. We're not talking about a 10 or 20% reduction. We're talking upwards of 99% less fluid. That is a total game changer for waste reduction and your bottom line. And the advantages just keep stacking up. Because you're using such a tiny amount of fluid, you can actually afford to use those high-performance vegetable oils we were talking about. It makes the shop cleaner and safer for your team by cutting down on all that mist in the air, and it's especially awesome in operations like sawing and drilling. So, let's bring this all home. When you start to look at your operations through this lens, you start unlocking benefits all over the place. This isn't about being green just for the sake of it. This is about being more profitable, more efficient, and building a truly state-of-the-art business. So here it is, your actionable checklist, your roadmap to get started. First, figure out where you stand with an LCA. Then, maximize what you already have with better filtration. Make the switch to better biodegradable fluids. And finally, take that big leap to smarter strategies like dry machining and MQL wherever they make sense for your shop. Every single one of these steps makes your business stronger, leaner, and more ready for whatever comes next. At the end of the day, your shop is the future of manufacturing. So the only question left is, which of these upgrades will you make to get ready for the next generation?